A festive atmosphere fills NAIA Terminal 3 as Filipino tennis star Alex Eala arrives home following her historic Wimbledon campaign.
Some airport arrivals are ordinary. Travelers collect their luggage, greet family members, and quietly head home. But Alex Eala's return to the Philippines was anything but ordinary. Long before she stepped through the arrival gates, hundreds of fans had already gathered with Philippine flags, handmade banners, and cameras ready to capture the moment. The atmosphere felt less like welcoming a tennis player after another tournament, and more like celebrating a national hero returning from history. After an unforgettable Wimbledon campaign that stunned tennis fans around the world, Alex wasn't carrying a trophy in her hands. She was carrying something far more meaningful, the pride of an entire nation. For 2 incredible weeks, millions of Filipinos stayed awake through the night, followed every point, celebrated every victory, and watched one of their own achieve something no Filipino player had ever accomplished in the open era. As she walked into the terminal with a smile on her face, the applause grew louder. Officials from the Philippine Sports Commission, the Philippine Tennis Association, the Philippine Olympic Committee, young athletes and supporters welcomed her home with cheers that echoed throughout the airport. It was a moment that perfectly captured how much her Wimbledon journey meant to the country. What made this homecoming even more emotional was that Alex herself never acted like someone who believed she had already reached the top. Throughout Wimbledon, every interview reflected the same humility that fans have come to admire. When reporters asked her what it meant to become the first Filipina to reach the second week of a Grand Slam in the Open era, her answer wasn't focused on records or headlines. Instead, she admitted that every new milestone felt deeply personal. She explained that every breakthrough represented years of hard work shared with her coaches, family, and everyone who had believed in her from the beginning. While she appreciated making history for the Philippines, she also viewed each achievement as another step toward the dreams she had been chasing since childhood. That honesty is one of the reasons why her story has connected with millions of people. Fans aren't simply celebrating a tennis player winning matches. They're watching someone who represents determination, sacrifice, and the belief that impossible dreams can become reality. The excitement surrounding Alex didn't begin only because she reached the fourth round of Wimbledon. It was the way she played that captured everyone's attention. Match after match, she walked onto some of the biggest courts in tennis without showing fear. Instead of being overwhelmed by famous opponents or legendary venues, she trusted her game and competed with remarkable confidence. One victory changed everything. Standing across the net was defending Wimbledon champion Iga Swiatek, a player many believed would once again challenge for the title. Very few people expected the young Filipina to create one of the tournament's biggest surprises, but Alex wasn't interested in predictions. From the opening games, she played aggressive, intelligent tennis, refusing to give the defending champion any rhythm. Every winner increased her confidence, every service hold increased the pressure on her opponent. As the match continued, it became clear that this wasn't a lucky performance. Alex was matching one of the world's best players shot for shot. When the final point was won, center court witnessed something unforgettable. One of the biggest upsets of the tournament had become reality. Around the world, commentators immediately recognized that this wasn't simply another surprising result. It was the arrival of a new star capable of competing with the very best players in women's tennis. Almost instantly, social media exploded with reactions. Tennis analysts praised her fearless performance, while fans celebrated a breakthrough that had been years in the making. Across the Philippines, television broadcasts, online platforms, and sports pages focused almost entirely on one name, Alex Eala. The victory carried a meaning that extended far beyond rankings or prize money. For decades, Filipino tennis fans had dreamed about seeing one of their own compete at the highest level of the sport. Now they weren't just watching a Filipino player participate in Wimbledon, they were watching her defeat one of the tournament favorites on its biggest stage. That single victory transformed expectations overnight. Alex Eala was no longer viewed as a promising young talent with future potential. She had become a genuine threat to the biggest names in women's tennis. And as her remarkable Wimbledon journey continued, one thing became increasingly clear. This was no longer just Alex Eala's story. It had become the story of an entire nation discovering that its greatest tennis dream was finally becoming reality. As the tournament moved into its second week, something remarkable began happening beyond the tennis court. Alex Eala wasn't just winning matches anymore, she was inspiring millions of people who had never followed tennis before. Across the Philippines, families stayed awake late into the night to watch her compete. Social media filled with messages of support, and every victory brought new fans into the sport. It was no longer just about Wimbledon. It was about believing that a Filipino athlete could stand shoulder to shoulder with the biggest names in world tennis. Even international tennis analysts started noticing the incredible wave of support surrounding her. Commentators spoke about the energy that followed Alex wherever she played. They pointed out that very few players on the WTA Tour generated such passionate support from their home country. Every time she stepped onto the court, Philippine flags filled the stands, and chants from Filipino fans could be heard throughout the stadium. It created an atmosphere that was impossible to ignore. What made Alex's rise even more impressive was the path she had taken to reach this stage. Unlike players from countries with long tennis traditions, she came from a nation where opportunities in professional tennis are far more limited. There were no generations of Grand Slam champions showing her the way. She had to create her own path, believing in a dream that many considered impossible. At just 13 years old, she left her home in the Philippines and moved to Spain to train at the prestigious Rafa Nadal Academy. It was one of the biggest sacrifices of her young life. Leaving family, friends, and the comfort of home is never easy, especially for someone so young, but Alex understood that greatness often requires difficult decisions. The years that followed were filled with discipline, hard work, and countless hours of training. Every practice session, every fitness workout, and every difficult match helped shape the player the world was now watching at Wimbledon. The academy didn't simply improve her tennis skills. It helped build the mental toughness that has become one of her greatest strengths. Throughout Wimbledon, that mental strength was on full display. Even when facing pressure against higher-ranked opponents, Alex rarely looked nervous. She stayed calm during crucial moments, trusted her preparation, and continued playing aggressive tennis without allowing fear to control her decisions. That confidence became especially important after her unforgettable victory over Iga Swiatek. Suddenly, every opponent understood they were no longer facing an underdog. They were facing one of the hottest players in the tournament. Her fourth-round match against Jasmine Paolini presented an entirely different challenge. Unlike earlier opponents, Paolini entered the match fully aware of Alex's ability to defeat elite players. There would be no underestimating the young Filipina this time. From the opening point, both players battled for every game. Long rallies, incredible defense, and fearless shot-making kept fans on the edge of their seats. It was exactly the type of match expected during the second week of a Grand Slam. Alex showed tremendous courage throughout the contest. Even when momentum shifted, she refused to give up. Every point was fought with determination, proving once again that her Wimbledon success was built on far more than confidence alone. Although Paolini eventually advanced after a hard-fought three-set battle, the result did little to change the overall narrative of Alex's remarkable tournament. In many ways, the defeat highlighted another quality that separates future champions from talented players. She never looked defeated. During her post-match interview, Alex didn't search for excuses or blame difficult conditions. Instead, she reflected on the experience with maturity far beyond her years. She spoke about learning from every opportunity, improving with every match, and remaining grateful for the chance to represent the Philippines on one of tennis's biggest stages. That attitude earned even greater respect from fans and fellow players. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't measured by trophies. They're measured by the way an athlete responds after disappointment. Alex's grace in defeat reminded everyone why she had become such an inspiring figure. Back home, the celebration continued despite the loss. Supporters understood that history had already been made. She had reached the second week of Wimbledon, defeated one of the sport's biggest stars, and climbed to the highest ranking ever achieved by a Filipina tennis player. Suddenly, conversations about her future changed dramatically. Instead of asking whether she could compete with the world's best, people began asking how far she could actually climb. Could she reach the top 20? Could she challenge for Grand Slam titles? Could she one day become world number one? Those questions no longer sounded unrealistic. They sounded possible. And as Alex Eala boarded her flight home to the Philippines, she carried something much more valuable than ranking points or prize money.